Hi, I'm Donald with Steambrite Supply, and today I wanted to go over some of the different items that confuse people about upholstery tools. There's so many different kinds to choose from, maybe why you would choose one tool over another. I just pulled a real small assortment here. We actually sell several hundred different types of tools, so I kind of wanted to point out some of the differences that you'll see in them. To begin with, the pressure of the pump really dictates the type of spraying system that you would want to choose. One of the first things I want to go over is this would be categorized as an open spray tool. And what that means is the jet is out in the open. A lot of times this is used for lower pressures like in 50 psi to 100 psi. The next category tool would be what they call a closed spray, and there's several different models of closed spray tools, but basically it means that you have two slots. You have a spraying slot and then you have a vacuum slot. And the idea is that when you have the pressure in 100 plus, 120, 150, 170, a lot of times that pressure is going to impact the fabric and you're going to have a certain amount of splashing and exploding, and that shield is going to be there to catch that overspray. Another category of tool is what they call internal spray. Now, internal spray means that the jet is on the inside of the vacuum slot. So instead of having an open spray or a closed spray, we actually have the jet inside the vacuum. Now, this is typically used for pressures between 200 and 400 psi. You'll notice in the fourth category would be like the HydroMaster DryMaster tool, as well as the Upholstery Pro from Sapphire Scientific. They both have a forward slot and a kind of a post drying slot, and then a spray bar or a spray slot in the middle. And this allows the water to come through the middle slot, and then no matter which direction you're going, either forward or backwards, it will continue to clean. On this type of tool, you basically are going to squeeze a trigger and you can just go up, back, up, back, up, back. It doesn't matter, because either way you always have some spraying and some vacuuming on both sides of that spray. I'm going to discuss this a little bit more later. The internal spray and the open spray tools also hold true on crevice tools. You can have an open spray crevice tool, or you could have an internal spray crevice tool. Crevice tools are used a lot of times in the automobile cleaning industry. It's also used for cleaning the welting, which is the kind of like the fabric wrapped cord that goes around a sofa. It's also a lot of times used for cleaning the glass door sliding track and on the floor. Also used for cleaning oriental rugs on the fringe. You'll notice that valves also are different quite a bit. You'll see, and I didn't bring any out here, but we have aluminum valves, plastic valves, brass valves, and when I mean valve, I'm referring to the mechanism that's actually controlling the back pressure. The brass valves are typically rated for use, 300 to 500 psi. If you're in an aluminum valve, you need to be under 400 psi. If you're in a plastic valve, it needs to be a non-heated machine at 100 psi or less. There are also tools that have no valve, and they're just called bare tools. And this particular tool is a curtain or drapery cleaning tool. You notice the perforated slots on it allow, or rather prevent, the fabric, because typically it's not stretched over something being secure. This prevents it from being sucked into the slot and offers less kind of like tension. If you have a lot of vacuum pulling on the fabric, you don't have to worry about the fabric being overstressed when you have this type of tool. Another thing that you'll notice that varies on tools is the angle of the head. Like some heads will be close to a 90-degree angle from the pipe to where the slot is. This is typically called like an upholstery wand. When they're closer to a 45-degree angle, where the pipe comes down at a 45, they call them a detail wand. Another thing that you'll notice on these tools, I'll find the right one. Oh, you're going to also notice that they vary in width. So we'll have tools that can be 3.5 inches wide. You can have tools that are 4.5 inches wide. You can have tools that are 6 inches wide. Another option that you can have with your wands is you can order them in a plastic head. You can order them in a stainless head, like these are stainless steel. You can order them in stainless with a sight window. You can also order them with what's called a pressure side bypass. And I have to find the tool I brought to show you an example. Oh, right here. This is called a pressure side bypass valve. And this is used on allowing you to have additional water not only coming out the jet, but coming directly into the pipe. Now that's going to keep the water in motion. If I was doing a movie theater and maybe my wand was hundreds of feet away from the seat, or the distance between the truck and the seat, the tendency is the water is going to cool down quite a bit before it gets to the tool, and I can speed that flow up from the time it takes for that water molecules and temperature to get from the truck to my tool. I can increase the speed of it. Now the other thing is, if I set my wand down for a while and walk away, maybe go pre-spray or scrub something, when I come back, my tool is instantly hot because I always have water flowing into the tool. Now another advantage to this, there are some brands of truck mounts that don't have kind of a water inflow jet or water inflow motion. If you are not real sure if your truck mount needs this, you can always call our office and we can go over that with you. Some truck mounts have complete automatic temperature control, and some of them need an additional pressure side bypass, because if you set the wand down and you don't keep the water in motion, you get sidetracked on the cell phone or your customer, the truck mount can actually get too hot. And so it's used a lot of times on that type. Now another thing that you'll notice in the tool world is you'll find tools, some of them include a quick disconnect on them, and at other tools you'll order them and they don't have this. I'll show you one. Oh, this one. This one by default normally does not have one on it, but we've already added a filter and a quick disconnect. But if you notice, like on the website, if it doesn't have a quick disconnect on it, that typically means it was made in America. The tools that by default have a quick disconnect included as part of the purchase are typically mean that they're an import tool, either made in China, Vietnam, or somewhere overseas. Just to kind of show you what we were looking at on this, what this looks like, this is what they call an H58 filter. This is what the filter looks like removed from the tool. This can be added to any tool. There's actually a strainer in there you take out with a flat-bladed screwdriver in order to service it. You would have to take it off, and naturally your quick disconnect can just screw right on there, and again we've got one so you can see what it looks like assembled. The nice thing about that, we kind of really like to recommend you consider a filter if you're going to go with any of the internal spray tools, especially if it's stainless steel where you can't see the spray. For example, this one, when I'm actually on the fabric, I can't see if that jet's clogged or not. So the best thing to do is preventative maintenance, to just make sure I can service this on the weekend or at night when I'm doing regular maintenance of my truck, and I don't have to worry about, hey, my jet's clogged, I'm trying to get the sofa done. I get to maintain my tool on my schedule and not while I'm at the job. If you're using an open spray tool or one that you can see the jet, naturally at least you know when you can, it's not spraying correctly and you need to service it. Now on these types of tools, to access this, if you ever did need to service the jet, we always recommend that you don't poke anything in your jets. If you're going to clean it, you can soak them in acid or you can use compressed air. We prefer to take the compression fitting off. You want to move the valve back a little bit, and this will just lift right out. That'll give you an open hole on the back side of the tube, and you can hold that up against a rubber tip on an air compressed spray gun and blow air backwards through it, or you can soak it in acid. For machines that do have internal spray or bidirectional cleaning capabilities, We do prefer that you consider a pump that has 200 psi or more. The reason for that, if I had put this tool, let's say I was using it on a 50 or 100 psi, what would happen when I'm squeezing the trigger is, if this is only 50 psi coming out, the vacuum is going to be stronger than the pressure, and before the water actually impacts the fabric aggressively enough to really clean it, it's going to get sucked back in. Now, if you buy an internal spray tool and it is low pressure, this thumb slide up here has been added to the tool. This allows you to pull back on the vacuum and adjust, so when you're on your fabric and squeezing the trigger, you can make sure that you can break that seal of the vacuum. That allows this tool to be used in a low pressure environment. If you're over 200 psi, you're going to leave this fully forward so that you can clean with this. Now, the nice thing when you're using the 200 plus psi pumps and an internal spray tool, or the type of tool that's got 2 vacuum slots with the spray bar in the middle, is that you do have the option of squeezing the trigger and actually cleaning both directions. Another option that you can get with these plastic headed tools is stainless steel lips. We do carry them as well. They just press on over the top and help give this a real rigid and durable lip to it. I also want to kind of briefly go back to the Sapphire Scientific tool. Inside of the Velcro device is a needle valve and a filter. So the water is filtered here. You don't have to buy a filter with this tool, it's included. And here you adjust how much water volume you want actually coming out of the tool. A lot of times people will make that adjustment when they're leaving it in a locked position. This tool, you can either trigger it like a traditional wand, or you can trigger it and pull this over, and that leaves it spraying all the time, and then you adjust your needle valve to how much water you want to come out, and you're literally just going to put it on the fabric and go up, back, up, back, up, back. It's a very low fatigue tool. This is made out of nylon, so it's exceptionally lightweight. Your solution hose is inside of the vacuum hose. Now, you'll notice on this one, this uses 1.5" vacuum hose, and this one here is using 1.25" vacuum hose. The advantage with the 1.25" is it's a little bit lighter in hand. Now, if you're comparing, let's say I'm having this tool, I've got my traditional hose cuff, my traditional hose, my solution hose here with my couplings. I've got my male and my female quick disconnect on here. What I've done is this tool is going to be a lot heavier. So if I'm doing a really big job, my arm is going to have a tendency to get tired quicker, as opposed to using a tool where the weight of the coupling is 5 or 6 feet away from me. It's on the floor. I'm actually not holding that weight in the air, because the weight of the brass and the metal, the thicker hose, is all on the floor or out of the car. The other nice thing about the internal spray is that when I am doing car cleaning and I'm doing like a floorboard environment and I'm going in front of that seat, I've got this coupling that might be impacting the threshold. Where I open the door and I've got where you actually enter the car, I've got that little piece of paint right there, and this coupling could have a tendency to impact that paint and maybe scratch it. Again, with using a tool where the hose and your couplings are outside the vehicle, you don't have that. This is lighter, easier on the arm and the shoulders, makes it much easier to use. I think that's it for now. Thanks for watching.